Okay. Well, y'all are ready? They're ready? And I'm ready, and I'm so excited. Welcome to Do Tell. Do Tell will be a series of events, and this is the inaugural event, where people, based on a subject or theme, will tell their own personal stories and experiences. Now, everyone can look at an apple, eat the apple, and tell you about their experience, and they will all say something different. And that's life. We all go through similar or same experiences, but based on who we are, where we grew up, where we live, what our psychological or emotional status is, will express that experience differently. And the beauty of listening to people's stories who had similar experiences, but have a different memory or expression to share about that experience is what allows us to expand our thinking and to have empathy for others. And empathy is something that's so missing in today's world because we're not talking to each other. We're in silos. So maybe today is just another opportunity for us to hear other people's stories from maybe similar experiences or different experiences. So stories have always been a vehicle for sharing information, giving information, but also retaining. The first ways of communicating when people were able to communicate thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago was through just verbal communications and sounds. The first visual experiences of stories are in the cave markings on the wall. And then there became writing. And then that allowed stories to be retained and spread even faster. And then we move into the last century, with digital, which accelerated the reach of everyone. And with the internet, and Lord help us, AI, the stories can spread, and you can shape and control them. So with that said, understanding stories, they have so much power. Even you who may have had nieces, nephews, or children, or a child yourself, how did you remember a lesson? What were some of the favorite times you had? Were stories. So with that said, let the story begin. Stories begin. We have 8 presenters of all different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, and age diversity, gender diversity, all kinds of preferences. And they're going to tell their story because tonight's theme is, if I had only known. So with that as the theme, let's start and see what the first presenter story is going to be regarding the theme, if I had only known. Now, the rule is that the story should be no longer than 10 minutes, and there are no notes allowed. But to introduce them, I have to use a note. And the first one up is Earl Brown. He's an experienced educator, business professional, consultant, and entrepreneur. He currently is the founder of his own education consulting company, Earl Brown Educating Consulting. His passion and mission is to make sure education, attainment, and professional development is accessible and is a priority in all of our communities and organizations. I bring to you Earl Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Wow, what all this love and clapping? I'm not used to this at home. Should have recorded this and showed my wife this, so that's how she should embrace me every time I come in my house. Instead of those dishes you need to be cleaning up right now. Okay. Well, first of all, let's give Deborah Davis Ford another round of applause for this event. That didn't start my 10 minutes, by the way. But it's so exciting to be here and to talk with you all and share stories. And we're all going to have a lot of stories that resonates with us and we hope resonates with you based off this theme. And like the story I'm going to tell had a personal message for me, had a lifelong message for me. It led to a learning about myself that I did not know. It led for me to redevelop myself in the role that I have and had that I did not know. And because of this story, it led me to really making a huge impact on what I do right now. And what I do is focusing really on education. I have a lot of roles in my consulting firm. And I have a lot of roles in education, from consulting to higher education and executive roles in there. And this is where my story all accumulates, and I'll tell you how it comes together for me and hopefully comes together for you. Raise your hand if we have any educators in the room at all. Education in all aspects of it. First of all, everyone's hand should be raised because we're all educators, okay? That's a trick question I always ask to my students. We're all educators. Even if you're not a teacher, even if you're not a counselor, right? You might be an educator for your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your colleague, a neighborhood person, someone down the street. We're all in this world to educate others and to learn from others. We're all in this world to figure out ways that even if we are downtrodden, even if we're not successful, to figure out ways that we can build everyone up. Because as I'm sure we all agree, this is a very divisive climate, socially, politically, that we live in. And if we don't have that mindset of how we can not only educate ourselves and bring ourselves up, and the people that we know and people that are similar to us, but also the people who are different than us, then who are we? So this leads into the story that I thought of for this segment. And this story started in my earlier journey as a college executive. And I started this role, I got promoted to a campus director at the college I was working with. And I was like, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to transform this campus. Everyone's going to come in here and they're going to graduate, and retention level is low. And the majority of my students were obviously, Black and Hispanic from low minority Newark areas. We had a large population of adult population, which are like 25 and up, with family, kids, a lot of single mothers. So I'm gonna transform and motivate, and I came with my energy, and everyone should be inspired, and let's go, we can do this. And I approached it that way. I approached it in a way where if you are not doing what you need to do, then maybe you don't want it. Maybe you are not inspired. Maybe you are deserving of the resources and opportunities that we have here. So this story is around a young lady, let's call her Tiffany, okay? And this is a real story. So as my role, I got a lot of reports from all of my students, especially those who weren't doing well. Tiffany was not doing well. Tiffany was not going to class. Tiffany was not doing her work. And Tiffany was about 24-ish, all right? And I'll tell you her backstory later on. Tiffany was not being successful, so I started to reach out to Tiffany, and she wasn't responding. The rare time she came on campus, I would say, hey, Tiffany, let's go to class. And then just ignore me and walk by me. So I thought, you know what? Tiffany does not want to be here. Tiffany does not want to learn. Tiffany doesn't want to be successful. Let me focus on those who want to learn, who want to be successful. Because I know Tiffany's story. I know what's going to happen. I told Tiffany, even though she wanted to ignore me, I said, you keep happening like this, you keep not doing your work, you will not be at this college for much longer. So what happened? Tiffany didn't do well. Tiffany failed her classes that semester. She was already on academic probation. And then, of course, Tiffany got that email that she was officially kicked out of school. That's a very sad moment for anyone. Even if you don't care about your life and education, it's a feeling of rejection. I'm kicked out of school. Everyone knows I'm in school, about to graduate, and my ego is shot. So what did Tiffany do? Of course, with her little attitude self, ran into my office. How dare you? Yelling, screaming, students, colleagues all over the place, messing up my desk, screamed. I told Tiffany, listen, I told you, we warned you. We were here to support you. No. You never supported me. You never, ever supported me. What are you talking about, Tiffany? We were here. I tried to reach out to you. I tried to contact you. And of course, Tiffany, in my mind, went through her, the process of, blaming others and her sad story, her sob story. No one cared about me. This is all your fault. You don't understand what I'm going through. I'm struggling right now. And in my mind, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And she walked out, saying how much she's going to hurt herself, saying how much her world is over, saying how much her life is over. Wow, that was a new experience for me. So obviously, immediately, I had counseling reach out to her. They didn't respond, but we still had to go through the process, and she was kicked out. And usually with these situations, in my mind, in this mentality that I came with, I would say these are learning lessons for Tiffany. She didn't really want this. She didn't really deserve this. So hopefully she learns from this experience. She learns from what she did wrong and comes back. If she doesn't, that's on Tiffany. We have a lot of other individuals and students, and this could be an analogy for anyone in your worlds. Any friend, family who takes your advice and listens to you and moves forward, and those in your family and in your networks who don't. These are learning lessons for her. But something in my mind, which I would not have done, told me, let me start reaching out to Tiffany. You know, I don't usually do this, but let me start communicating with Tiffany, even though I know she would ignore me. So I started to send Tiffany emails. And for those who know me, I'm a big, motivational YouTuber. If you ever come by my office in the morning, it's like Mel Robbins, you could do it, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I would send these to her once a month. Then I would tell her, in order to come back, I would start sending her suggestions via email. No response, no callbacks. I would get notices from Essex County College and other ways that she can turn her life around, and hopefully she's on track, and hopefully she's doing well. No response, and I did this for over a year, and what happened? A semester went by, nothing. Another semester went by, nothing. A third semester came and gone, and then nothing. Until the end of the semester, where at the end of the semester, we start focusing on enrollment for the next semester. And here I see walking down the hallway, and I couldn't see because I didn't have my glasses on at the time. I said, that lady looks so familiar. And she's walking, and she has a little hop into her, and I see this aura around her, and she gets closer and closer and closer to my office, and here's Tiffany with this big, bright smile on her face. Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown, Mr. Brown, I'm back. Wait, what? So she comes in my office, and she says, yes, I'm back. I start back next semester. I'm like, wait, what? I haven't heard from you in so long. You rushed out of here and just outraged and blaming everyone. What happened to you? She said I was going through some things in my life. But, no one ever followed up with me. No one ever really else showed that they cared about me. And then even though I was angry with you, and even though I was negative to you, and even though I said a lot of hateful things to you, I got your emails, Mr. Brown. I got your voicemails. I got your motivational videos, and I clicked on a lot of them. And at first, I didn't want to click on them because they were annoying, but I started to click on them, and I started to like them. I took your advice, and I did, not the county college, but I did a certificate program. I changed my life around. The college saw that. They re-enrolled me back in here. Make a long story short, at the end of that story, not only did she graduate in the following 2 semesters with good grades, she also got an internship and she got a job. Right? Isn't that a good story? Yeah. Clap it up for Tiffany. But that's not the learning lesson for the theme of this that really impacted me. As I sat back and I reminisced about that literally a month later on, that as someone who felt that I'm here to inspire others, I'm here to pick others up, I didn't do that, right? I would not have done that. I would not have continued emailing her. I would have had that mentality, which is assumption and judgment, because we all assume and we all judge, right? And I thought, I'm not like that because so many people did that to me when I was younger, growing up, assumed and judged. But I assumed and I judged without getting to know her. But that's the theme of part B. The part A, which is really the most important part about this, and why this story resonates with me, but there's a bigger story to this that I hope you really understand, which is the power of planting seeds. And that's where it comes to if I had only known. The power of planting seeds. I came into this life of education and community development trying to help everyone else and got so frustrated because if I told you to do something, you didn't do it, why aren't you listening to me? You don't want it. Without realizing that whether it's a college executive and a student, whether it's a mother or a son, whether it's a friend to another friend, whether it's a Democrat to a Republican, I learned the power of planting seeds that you might not be able to impact someone right then and there, but you can impact them later on in the future. So my constant emails, my constant outreach, my constant show of concern and show of love, that planted a seed in her. And the consistency of that planting a seed in her. She got those emails, she got those calls, she got those voicemails. And that's when she started to take action and change her life. And this is where I go back into the other story of that if I had only known how judgmental I was, because I thought I wasn't. I thought that this is someone who just didn't want to be successful and had all these sob stories, but we have all these other people who do all these things from your background, but why they're not successful when you are. But here's her story. She was trying to further herself when she first enrolled in college. But of course, she's a first-generation student, raised by her grandmother. No one in her family went to college. So she had no one in her life to support her, to push her. When things got tough, she had no one to say, keep going on. Just keep one more semester, keep going on one semester. If you graduate, your life can change. She had no one in her corner. And then things started to unravel, which is why she stopped going to class. This lady who grew her up in life passed away. Her grandmother passed away. She had no one else in her life. She was raising one young son. The father wasn't involved. And then, of course, when nothing else can go wrong, she lost her job. But I didn't do further investigation. I just assumed and judged that this was someone who didn't take my advice, who wasn't willing to step further and do things that she needed to do without learning from her. So if I had only known before then what I know now, which is really the focus of my life and how I interact with everyone. And this is just an analogy in a short way for you to understand, which is an executive, an educator to a student. But this can be anyone in our lives. The power of planting seeds. There are probably people in your life where you might say, they're not listening to me. They might not understand. But it could be one small comment. It could be one call. It could be one set of advice that can change their life. And secondly, the negativity of assumption and judgment. And I end with this. We really live in such a divisive world right now. We're such a secluded environment. You are a Democrat? Okay, I'm only going to listen to you. You're a Republican? Trump? I'm only going to listen to you. You're Black Lives Matter? I'm only going to listen to you. You conservative? I'm only going to listen to you. And we judge and we assume of other people without getting to know other people. And then when we get to know other people, we can know other people's stories. And then when we know other people's stories, most importantly, we can plant the seeds. And that seed that we can plant can not only be transformative to that person, but also to ourselves. Thank you very much.
So the next speaker is Stacey Abenstein?
Abenstein? Either will
Apple.
work.
Right?
I'll answer either way.
is a Livingston resident and bleeds politics. It's a family affair. And she is also known as a get out vote specialist. Yes. Her love for politics began as a member of Binghamton University, and she was a member of the Student Assembly, lobbying legislators in Albany. She has held a variety of positions during her career in retail, including working as a senior account executive. She has volunteered for numerous campaigns, including Senator Cory Booker, Congresswoman Mickey Sherrill. Her success in turning out the vote led to appointments as Essex County co-chair for Action Together New Jersey, field director with New Jersey 11 for Change, and is a member of the Livingston Democratic Committee. Stacey also is a wife and a mother with a son and a daughter. So let's bring up Stacey as she shares her story.
So I'm going to be the cheater with the notes. It happens.
Oh,
All good, right?
there's always one who breaks the rules. So,
I'm a rebel.
and
all good.
I'm only going to have one rule breaker. All right. So
I don't know about
she's
that.
it.
Well, I just figured I have this big birthday coming up, and it's, a big number. so I could probably use a few notes to look down at so I can remember. But you know what, this big birthday has caused me to do some soul searching. It's like the greatest hits and the worst follies of Stacey. But you know what, we all do that every time we come to one of these big birthdays, right? But I realized that so much of what I did during my lifetime is really what I wanted to do, but didn't know that's what I wanted to do, right? It's a crazy thing. So sometimes things are right under your nose, but you don't realize it. If I had only known. So I started advocacy and politics in college, as Deborah had said. Student assembly, lobbying in Albany. I started a student newspaper called The Advocate because people needed to be able to get out what they wanted to say. Just hearing the news from the campus newspaper wasn't really going to be enough. So we're going to advocate for each other. We're going to write articles about things that are important to us, right? So I did that, but I was a Spanish major with a poli-sci minor. What the hell was I going to do with that, right? My father goes, "You can go to law school." I said, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Have my nose in the books the rest of my life and wear suits every day? Oh, you got the wrong girl. You got the wrong girl." But by the end of college, there was a career fair. And I left my resume with everybody, and I got 2 callbacks. And you're never going to believe the 2 different entities that called me back for an interview. Okay, first, Bloomingdale's. Okay, that sounds like a thing I could do, right? The second, wait for it, the CIA. Seriously. I'm going to go with, I worked at Bloomingdale's, and then A&S, and then Loehmann's, and I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun. It was a fun career to have. But it wasn't meaningful. Do you know what I mean? It really just wasn't meaningful to me. So I stopped working when my daughter was 2, and then once the second child, my son, came, he had some special needs. Listen, he's in great shape. Maybe because I advocated and I was a nut job when he was a baby. But we got him what he needed, and he is successful in live television now, and he's great. But, a lot of things came up. And I was that crazy parent at the IEP meeting that had booklets for everyone in little plastic covers, right? With the little, everybody got a report. Yeah, I was that person, but I did it. And then I joined an apraxia group, and I advocated for him there. And they said, "Will you be the secretary?" And I dug to the bottom of my mommy bag, and all I could find was a crayon. Yes, I will take the notes in crayon, because somebody had to do it, right? We have to help each other. We have to go, just like you were saying, we have to help each other. We have to advocate for each other. I then wrote an article that was in Exceptional Parent magazine, and then that was published in a book called The Late Talker. But these are things that I saw, that people were struggling, and they didn't know where to start, and they didn't know what to do. And I advocated for them, and I helped them. And this is, something that really meant something to me. Later on, I was on the PTA, and I was on the Parents and Professionals for Exceptional Children, and I worked and I did all these things, and I learned interesting skills that I did not know that later on in life, these things would come back and help me with my second act. So 10 years ago, when I got really back into politics, it was really because of my children. They both worked on the Booker campaign in 2013. My daughter was a field organizer. My son was a fellow. He was only 15. And you know what? It was really, really a lot of fun. It was like I got back into what I was enjoying so much in college. So it's kind of easy to find your passion, but that's not enough. That's not enough. Passion, that's great, awesome. Find something you like, whatever. But it wasn't until 2016, the awakening. The awakening. Well, I awoke after 2 weeks of comatose behavior in my bed, but I did get up eventually, and I said, we got to do stuff. We got to do something. This can't stay like this. So as you know, we did the Fridays with Frelinghuysen, and we kind of knocked him out of trying again, and he decided to retire. And then we got Mikey Sherrill, elected, and there were hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people, even some bust from the city, who were coming to canvass from my staging location in my house. That, by the way, is still the staging location for Mikey Sherrill. It doesn't go away. Now they get met by my dog under the table. I mean, it is what it is, right? But they had given us a little like a goal of 7,000 votes from Livingston. Well, don't you know it? It was 9,000. We got 9,000 votes that year, her first year, to help her get elected. And that was such a big deal. But over the time, there have been campaigns and there have been issues: immigration, abortion rights, gun control, voting rights, environment, protests, community organizing, building. There was all these things over and over and over and over. But you know what I realized? I realized that the way to fix these things in life is to get people to vote. That's it. If they don't vote, you can't change them. Because if the people who are out there, who are making the laws and making the decisions, if those people can just get back into their jobs and nobody is like going to run against them, or nobody is going to, like they have to be accountable to us, right? So I am a grassroots organizer. I didn't know I was a grassroots organizer. But all the advocacy was met by something that I didn't know was my superpower, and that was just getting people to follow me, getting them to do what I wanted to do. That's not such an easy thing. If you can do that, that's a great thing. I didn't know I had that skill. So all those years of PPEC and PTA and all these other things that I thought were like, oh, big deal. I'm like, a carpool mommy, But you know what? All those things were bringing me skills I didn't know I had, right? So I think what you need to learn is that you can discover your passion. That's awesome. But more importantly, you need to develop your superpower. I started off trying to get people to vote through vote by mail. And we originally started with 8,000 letters and forms from the clerk's office sent out to Democrats, sorry, this is what I am, sent out to Democrats in the field and explaining to them that they can vote by mail in New Jersey without a reason, that they can go and they can just, they don't have to leave their house. My husband, sitting there, he decided, oh my God, I can vote this way? He's never missed an election. Just saying. So, but the thing was, we started with 8,000 vote by mails. Just Livingston people who couldn't help were dropping stamps in my mailbox. Yes, rolls of stamps in my mailbox. They were so great because it just sounded so exciting. Look what we're doing. We're going to do this. We're going to get more people to vote. Maybe we can make a change through people voting. Well, guess what? Last year, when I was doing it through NJ 11th for Change, we had new towns in the 11th voting district for Mikey Sherrill, and we sent out 43,000 letters in those new towns. And that's huge. Of course, the Democratic Party then wanted to take, that's another story. Anyway, I don't need to tell that story. But anyway, find your passion, but develop your superpower, because there's no way in life to get anywhere without something you're good at. That's it.
So next up is Moses. Is
Oliva.
It? Oliva.
Oliva.
Thank
Yes,
you. Oliva.
thank you. Oliva. Woo. They're Moses.
I knew him. I knew Moses when he did marketing, and now he does real estate, and he just got his broker's license, and he's already killing it. He is also the treasurer of Montclair, and is a board member at the Temple
Near Tamid.
near Tamid. So come on
All right.
up and welcome Moses.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so thank you for having me. I am so sorry I didn't get to go to the rehearsal, and a lot of my talk is going to center around that, or that same kind of idea around, the roles that we kind of adopt along the way. I want to talk a little bit about birth order, and I clearly act like the youngest because I am, So we're gonna go a little bit there and about what I learned along the way and leading into a little bit of that. But I feel like in life we're a little bit scientists, we're a little bit artists, right? Like you've got facts, you've got math, like you need to get vaxxed, right? But then there's narratives, right? And then they form beliefs, right? Well, in real estate, you've got just like a couple of seconds sometimes to make an impression on someone and to kind of, we've got this guard up, especially when it comes to spending a lot of money on a house, right? And you need to identify like, oh, are they getting divorced or, whatever, like all really instantly and have them be able to trust you at the same time with very relevant, pertinent information that's about to decide the next course of their life. And it's like this big weight that's on you. All right, that all said, right? What I could have done a little bit better is know a little bit about birth order. So let's kind of level set over here. How many firstborns do we have in the audience over here? Okay, you guys are the heroes. You are born for this role. I am not born for this role, right? Like you are, even if you are an introvert, for whatever reason, you're okay at this. And I've got to preface, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. This is anecdotal information of my own, my observations that I've made along the way. Middle children, who are the middle children? Middle children, okay. So generally speaking, usually, what I've read, there's some of you are the black sheep sometimes, and some are the scapegoats. Do any of you identify with that maybe? But you also get the most latitude in being able to like, oh, I'm gonna do this, oh, I'm gonna go camp, oh, whatever, and you get a lot of that adventure. All right, how about youngest? Who's a baby? All right, babies. How about only children? Only children, any only children in the house? There we go. So there's this thing about youngest and only children. We can spot each other from a mile away. I know I just watch people's demeanor. Like my bestie Allison over there in the front. I knew from like just the tonality of her voice, like at the beginning when we first became friends, I'm like, she is either a youngest or an only child. Just her behavior. We're bubbly. For whatever reason, like life is just a little bit more, we take it I don't know if it's our parents. I don't know if it's our siblings and that we have like competition. All I know is my brother, my eldest brother, I know I will never, he's got his PhD, he was in the military, we're Mexicans, he's a Republican, he wants to build the wall. We came to this country, like for whatever reason, he is about the system, and I'm not saying eldists are all Republicans, or that there's anything wrong with Republicans, I mean, whatever. But no offense over here, you can tell what side of the fence I'm on over here. But, all that said, and then the two middle children, my other brother, he thought he was going to be the youngest along the way. I was at the very tail end. All three of them were born in Mexico. They migrated here as teenagers with my parents. They got documented, and then I came along. I kind of ruined things, but I feel like I brought the whole family together. If everybody is arguing, and boy do they argue, for whatever reason, I have like a little talent, or I don't know if it's a talent gift that I learned along the way. I can stop us from arguing. I can just be like, oh my God, you guys, let's talk about your kids. For whatever reason, it just stops. I didn't embrace that when I was a kid. I just thought I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a bit of a gift. It's a gift that we all have. And part of it is being aware of, what that thing is. And for me, what I could have done different, had I known that, had somebody not trained me so rigidly around like, oh, you know what? Well, there's causality, and then there is coincidence, or there's correlation and cause, right? There's differences between both. Well, yes, these are correlations. It's not necessarily that one causes the other, but boy, is it sure interesting that a lot of youngest that we can just kind of relate to each other so quickly, and that for whatever reason, with others, when we deal with others, we can break down barriers and kind of like disarm people very quickly. Hey, this is good to know because we don't do it alone, right? If I've learned anything, if I talk to my nephews or my nieces, especially as times change, we were talking about politics earlier, or healthcare, or decisions, just tough decisions that people wrestle with to be able to be humans in modern life. How do you do that? Well, you know, I've got this gift, even if the conversation is tough, because it might be a generational one where I'm like, okay, I need to understand, I'm on the board of Out Montclair, I need to understand trans better, I need to understand non-binary better, and I need to be a better listener. But I can disarm them, and I'm like, just tell me a little bit more. Tell me more so that I can learn, so that I don't become my uncle, who I would have to reprogram the VCR for because it was blinking all the time with the same number over and over. So I guess, you know, my share over here would be, you know, lean into that uncomfortableness of like feelings maybe that don't seem so rational, because we all, you know, we're all here at the privilege of others, and there's others that you don't know if you may impact because, I don't know, so I think of that example. Somebody's like literally banking on their future for the house that I'm gonna put them in. That's gonna create their social circle. That's gonna create future experiences. Their children are, I know, right? I'm blaming their entire future on, I'm like, that's me. But no, I mean, how many times are we putting our own lives out there, right? And if we were able to be able to be more trusting, or vetting people even better, then how much better would we be able to manage those people around us? Thank you, that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Garnet is currently the deputy clerk for the County of Essex. She's vice chairwoman of the Maplewood Democratic Committee. She had over a couple of decades as an executive in the corporate world, a rainmaker generating revenue for companies, and before she became to public service. But she's a mother, a wife, a resident of Maplewood for over 20 years. But here's the most exciting thing about Garnet. Yeah. She just won her first election.
Yeah. Thank you.
She's Assemblywoman-elect for District 28, which includes Maplewood and South Orange. So she's one of two Assembly women, and she ran a great campaign, and she's a winner. Step on up.
Thank you. And I just must start out by saying there's some people in the audience who made that possible. You never do it by yourself. And Stacey was one of my campaign managers. When she talked about that 9,000 votes, vote by mails, guess who was driving them to her house? Her husband tonight didn't see me lifting a box, so I didn't point to my car, because when she first came to me and told me we were going to get out 9,000 vote by mail applications, I really thought she was crazy. We did it. And we improved the way people voted, gave them options of how to vote, and increased that vote. So kudos to all of you in the audience also who voted for me and had confidence in me. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story of how I got here. One of the things that got me was to look at this poem one day as I was sitting there, and it said, "We shall not cease from exploration, and if at the end of all our exploring, we will arrive where we started, but seeing it for the first time." That resonated with me, because at the age of 60-something, I got an opportunity to see myself for the first time, because I looked back on how I got here. You know, I started out in Montclair when I was 12 years old. There was a program in Montclair, Urban League. They paid us to do our homework. At least that's what we thought. We would go to the location, we had tutoring, or we would tutor other people. They were really building leaders. We didn't know it. They paid us a couple of dollars a week, and it all started then. A program 60 years ago. We need more of those programs back. So then we went on, and Dr. Martin Luther King came to our high school. Now, I was only 8. I wasn't a high schooler, but they took me there because he was going to Newark, and he had some time, and he decided to stop off in Montclair. You can Google all this. And he spoke to us, and he said to us, "Get engaged." And you know what? I was already engaged. So this path started. And then I looked at my father, who he was a truck driver, blue-collar worker, working at the airport, but he bought his own truck. And he started to haul whatever it is, birds sometimes, all these different things that he would bring home. But he organized. He organized a union and he became a shop steward. Little did I know, all of this was happening in front of me, making me who I am. It became natural to me. My mother worked at Essex County Hospital for 30 years and retired. Who would ever thought that? I'm working for Essex County, my mother, I mean, when she had that job, I was like, oh no, I would never do that. Never say never. Because now I look back and guess what? My son is a Newark police officer working for Essex County. Back at where I started, but seeing it for the first time. That just keeps coming back to me. And you know, I found out my love tank was full, but I didn't know why. Why do I do this? My friends would say, who are you? Why you do that? Oh, let Garnet handle the politics. I didn't know at that time that it filled me. I was doing things for other people because it made me feel good. So at this age, I had to learn that about myself. I can't say no. Stacey says no. She never says no to me. But Stacey showed me also. Why do we keep doing this? Why are we here tonight? Why are we trying to tell you? It's not about politics. It's about commitment. It's about community. Look around tonight. Look at the diversity in the room. All of us can walk out of here and do one thing and imagine how that would change the world, whether it's together or as one. Find that one passion that you have and pursue it. You heard what Ed was talking about tonight when he's talking to the students, when he's talking. Every time you speak, you do not know who you're touching. So keep talking. Although one of my things this time, I wasn't going to speak tonight, I got to listen more than I talk. And that's what I'm saying to all my new communities that I'm representing. When I stand in front of them, I don't want to talk. What are your issues? What are your problems? How do we solve that? Don't tell me a problem because I will go out and try to figure out how to solve it. But some of the things that I've been watching, and I really want to know people's opinion on, why is it that we think in suburbia that we can save the urban environment? What I want you to know is they don't want to be saved. You know the song, they don't want to be saved? They don't want to be saved. They just want goods and services like we have. So when you really take a look at people who are underserved in communities, don't look at them as they're in the ghetto. Oh, it's generational. They will tell you, I've lived here, my mother's lived here, my grandma's lived here. We've raised our kids here. So don't assume because you live in an area that doesn't look like an urban area that the people there are not happy to be there. Aren't you happy where you live right now? I think most of us will agree. We're pretty darn happy the way we live and what options that we have. So you always have an option, but do you really want to move out of the area to satisfy that? So I really found out at this age, and now I'm going to tell you, really, 63 years old, I see myself for the first time. And I'm happy about it for the first time because I couldn't figure out why do I do what I do. It's not politics, it's me. And I think if you look at me, you would be able to see that there's a happiness in me that I can serve and do something for someone else. So I just wanted to say tonight, I challenge that to each and every one of you. Take a look at yourself. What can you do? Just one more thing. What could you do to change someone's life? What can you do to touch someone's life? We've got a serviceman here. I know he's been to service. Now, where were you in Africa? I never could say it right. Djibouti? I mean, that's something that how many people do you know have been to Djibouti and do what he did? So take a look at yourself. Challenge yourself. My grandson graduated yesterday, and you know what advice I had to tell him from the 8th grade? Prepare, explore, and challenge yourself. We'll be there to support you. So I want to leave that with you tonight. It's the same thing. Thank you.
So next, I'm going to bring you up Walee. Walee is an Orange native raised in Parrow Street Projects. He retired in 2019 after 22 years of HR accomplishments in Silicon Valley with Broadcom. These days, Walee spends his time as vice chairman of Jazz for Prostate Cancer Awareness, a nonprofit organization which will be recognized this weekend by Governor Murphy at the New Jersey Volunteers Award ceremony. Walee has completed graduate programs from Fairleigh Dickinson University, Cornell University, and Yale School of Management. His hobbies include swimming. By the way, in the day, he was a 100-mile swim champion. He's part of this group of addicts that I belong to, the Double Deck Pinochle Club. He doesn't always beat me. I beat him sometimes too.
Yes, he does.
And he's a creative writer. He's written and published 3 poetry collections, and his biggest honor is being Poppy to his son, Wesley. Welcome up, Walee.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. Walee, there's an expression, if you want to make God laugh, you do what? Tell him you make plans, exactly. So this is a very awkward evening. I didn't expect to see her tonight. And I didn't expect to see her with him. But it is what it is. And so Deborah said you couldn't have notes, but thanks to Elitist Coffee and the business that they have, I was able to switch gears and get something on paper. So I ask that you indulge me. Because I'm really, really sensitive, and in the moment, there may be a few expletives that are released into the universe, so I apologize in advance, but the truth is the truth. And so I'll just begin by saying I did things with you that I've never, ever done before. Share secrets from my past that were locked away deep inside this heart's core. My tongue drilled into you like a coal miner. It searched and it explored, and yet we're not at the point that I had hoped for. I simply expected more. I think that you don't feel the way that I feel about you. Pretty simple. You don't feel the way that I feel about you. So now, if it didn't mean as much to you as it meant so much to me, I won't say your name, but please, my darling, be ever so truthful. Tell me now and just let me be. For when I met you, I was strong, and with your loving, I grew stronger. And if what we have is to part right now, I'll get over you. Yes, I will somehow. It's just that it may take a little longer than the rest. I thought you were the best for me, but now I see that you don't feel the way that I feel about you. Don't hide it, don't deny it, just say it. You don't feel the way that I feel about you. No. So mirror, mirror on the wall, who just got played most of all, right? So now, this is when I do my male version of Florence Evans in Good Times, when she just raged and said, no, damn, 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 and follow that with, I wiped away your tears, and you tell me that you drunk up all the beers, and you tell me that I erased all of your fears. You tell me that 9 whole effing years, and now you want to tell me that you don't feel the way that I feel about you. And now this mofo is all up in your face trying to take my place and reap the benefits of all my time, all my dime, all my wine, all my shine, because you don't feel the way that I feel about you. Ain't this some? I'm not cursing tonight. And you said I have the nerve, or we have the nerve to talk about the truth. So the truth is, yes, I contributed to this awful mess. And yes, I contributed to your nightly stress. And yes, I disobeyed the lawyer's behest. And yes, I still have so much more to confess. And yes, I called you something vile that rhymes with witch. And yes, I gave you something vile that made you severely itch. And yes, we have plans to grow old and get rich. And now you want to up and leave me. Ain't this because you don't feel the way that I feel about you. You know I don't watch every episode, this is for him, of How to Get Away with Murder twice, right? So F, 3 strikes. I think I'm really ready to kick your you-know-what tonight. And as I look down on Valley, I see that 5-0 is within my sight. And now I hear again what I refuse to accept, as hard as I try, as hard as I might, that you don't feel the way that I feel about you. Well, go on then. Pack your and get to stepping. But before you leave Elitist Coffee, I have 1, 2, 8. Just make it 8 simple questions. Does he do your toes the way I lick your toes? Does he do your nose the way I lick your nose? Does he do your back the way I lick your back? Does he lick your crack the way I lick your crack? Does he do your lips the way I lick your lips? Does he do your tips the way I lick your tips? And does he make you flip the way I make you flip? And does he make you drip the way that I make you drip? I don't motherfucking think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. But still, you don't feel the way that I feel about you. And this is the part where I would break out into song about how I'm hurting and haunted by a lost love. And it could be Ronald Isley's Atlantis, come back to me, that pleading moan. It could be Luther's You Stop Loving Me, whoa, whoa, you stop loving me. But the Spirit is taking me way, way back. My last name is Jackson, so I'm really feeling some afros and bell bottoms. Some 5 brothers got together and they sang, "You are the book that I read each day. You are the song that I sing. You are the 4 seasons of my life. But maybe tomorrow you'll change your mind, girl. Maybe tomorrow you'll come back to my arms, girl. Maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow." All I know is that you said it. I don't want to accept it. But I'm looking at you and you look happy. And so I'll end with, and you've heard me say it all tonight, so say it with me. You don't feel the way that I feel about you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
While we go to mic change. And introduction for our next presenter is Marjorie Lloyd. She claims that she's 30% Michigan and 60% New Jersey. So that leaves, that adds up to 90. What's the other 10%?
International.
So Lloyd was born in Detroit and schooled in Kalamazoo, nursed in the bosom of Black is Beautiful, and as an activist, she relocated to Jersey City, wedded in Tanzania. Lloyd, how do you pronounce that last name?
Walee.
Walee gave birth in Hoboken and Livingston, a suburbanite, a homeowner, a self-sufficient single parent, a civil service, political science, and historian. A teacher devoted teacher, and she served 25 years in New York City, sentenced 12 years in Staten Island, and 8 years recovering from RBTS. Today, Miss Lloyd is, you giving me all these?
Lloyd is fine.
Is a pensioner and a nomadic slow driver. She also moves
driver?
solo. Let's bring her up.
That was meant to be a peripatetic pensioner. In other words, I travel. I retired 8 years ago today. And today is my birthday, actually. I was 63 yesterday. And this story I want to share with you has to do with one of the trips that I took. It was January 2020, and I was living in Maplewood. I rented my house out and went to Tanzania. And it was there for maybe a month or two, and then I got kind of bored. I'm traveling for no reason. I travel now because I look for adventure. I'm bored, and I'm trying to escape America, honestly. So I was in Tanzania for a while, and then I said, oh, why don't I go to Dubai? Because that's what everyone was talking about in Tanzania. Go to Dubai, go to Dubai. So I get a ticket to Dubai. I did actually a package, which is something I rarely do, because I'm just like too adventurous to do that. But I get this package and travel from Dubai, first to Nairobi at that airport for maybe 6 hours, and then ultimately made it there. You know, when I got at the airport, a woman picked me up. You know, it's this amazing woman who I kept running to in Tanzania, happened to be in that airport, and then she pointed to me to where the taxis were. I get into a taxi, an Ethiopian woman is driving. You know, I get in with her, and I didn't read anything about Dubai, never looked at any pictures, never looked at nothing, but I was amazed at this skyline. I hadn't seen anything like this. I get out the car, she says to me, maybe you'll find your man here. And I was like, you know, forget you, who said I was looking? Anyway, so the next day, I was near one of the malls, because that's the great thing to do, and I met some very young Ugandan girl, and she was like, you should take the hop-on, hop-off bus. And I was like, no, that's tourist stuff. But then I'm like, what else have I got to do? So I bought the ticket and did the hop-on, hop-off. I went to the Dubai Aquarium. It was beautiful. I went to certain shops. I saw the marina. And it was kind of cool because I got the opportunity to see everything that I could go back and see as a tourist. And then I got back to the hotel room, and I was like, this is just too beautiful. And I have nobody to share this with. You know what I mean? That's okay. And I like take in stuff and observe, and then I sit in my room and, you know, ponder it and the world and all of that other stuff and write, maybe post something once in a while. But it was like, this is kind of whack that I don't have anybody to tell this to. So I found a half a joint and I took it outside. I don't know where it came from, but I took it outside and I tried to smoke, but I was scared because there's cameras everywhere, right? So that didn't work. And I remember I had on like the oldest, raggediest jean skirt I had, a blue dashiki, some Crocs, and a green head wrap. And I'm walking, and I get back to the hotel, and I sit down on the curb, and I meet this kid. And the kid is from Uganda, actually, another Ugandan. And then he starts talking, we're talking. And then, you know, he says, where are you from? And I said, I just came back from Tanzania. And, you know, I start throwing some Swahili at him, and everything is cool. And he says, oh, there's another Swahili person here? And I'm like, really? You know, it's another Tanzanian. He says, they're in room 30 something. They had money laying all over. I'm like, that's my room. What are you talking about? So then the guy says, well, I need to speed up on this story. But the guy says to me, well, you know, I'll take you out tomorrow. So I said, okay, fine. God has answered my prayers. I have somebody to hang out with. I can go out and have fun. So I leave this kid, and I'm walking. I'm walking back to the room, and this guy says to me, this guy, I'm going to describe him for a minute. He's sort of like, anybody know Christian Quintaras? Anyway, this guy, I'm surprised you don't know this, but anyway, so the guy says, hello, sit down, have a cigarette with me. And I'm like, no, it's okay. He says, no, have a cigarette. Have a seat, please sit down. Where are you from? I'm like, where you think I'm from? He said, Detroit? I was like, oh, shit. So I sat down. I said, well, obviously you're from England somewhere. And he's like, yes. Can you guess? You know, of course I'm going to say London or something like, no, that's not it. He says, you know, I have a feeling I came here to meet you. I'm like, yeah, okay, right, you know. He says, I went and opened a bag of Scrabble letters, and I pulled one out, and it said M. And I said, I'm going to go everywhere there's an M. And I was like, okay, I'm M, you know. So he said, I tell him my name is Mel, because I didn't want to tell him my real name, and his name was Giles. He said, would you like to have a beer? You know, we're drinking illegally. He's drinking illegally. And I was like, no, you know, I don't feel like beer. It's beer. You don't drink? I'm like, of course I do. Well, what would you like to drink? On a night like this, gin and tonic. That's perfect. Gee, that is perfect. You are perfect. You are brilliant. You are amazing. I said, okay. That's what I said. And so he says, there's a bar around the block. And we walked to this bar, and I was like, God, it was an empty lot of all of these high buildings there. And I said, I wonder if they play soccer. Oh, soccer, that's so American. That's football. I'm like, no, but football is football, and it's not rugby. Yeah, rugby is a real man's sport, he says. And I was like, okay, whatever. So we go into this bar. You know, it's like very Americanish bar. It's pennants, and I see a University of Michigan sign. I was like, yeah, you know. And they are playing Marvin Gaye, Distant Lover. I said, oh my God, what does that mean? And then they play Wake Up Everybody. So they're playing my stuff, you know, and I'm feeling all black and proud and everything. And so he talks, this man was speaking to everybody. So there was this Indian guy there, and they just chatting. And the Indian guy had the blackest hair I'd ever seen. It was shiny. I said, your hair is fascinating. He says, no, your hair is fascinating. I said, yeah, you're right. So me and the guy, Giles, left there and decided we would hang out, not tomorrow, because I was hanging out with the Ugandan kid, and we'd hang out the next day. He says to me, I'm here for my baby brother, but I'm sure I have been brought here to meet you. And I was like, all right, whatever. And so the next day, after I hung out with the kid, we went to the Dubai Marina. We take a cab to the marina, and he's asking the cabbie, as he does everybody along for the rest of the day, where are you from? How long have you been here? How do you say no problem in your language? And I was like, this guy talks more than I do, you know? But then I added out, and so do you have any kids? Where are they from? How old are you? And the cabbie just starts laughing. And I asked him, how many other people, do you understand me better or him? He said, you. I said, see, I won out. But at any rate, we get out. Cabbie doesn't even want to take the fare. Everyone's laughing. And we get to the marina, and we start walking. We stop for coffee and cigarettes. Every 70 paces, someone is popping up with a menu in your face. come and eat this, you know, it's Chinese, it's Indian, it's this, it's there's all this, everyone. And each one of them, where are you from? How do you say hello in your language? But everything seemed so funny as we marveled at how magnificent that place was. All these buildings, I mean, it made New York look like nothing. And I was like, God, look at humankind. I don't care what people say, it's fake. Humankind can do so much. And all this was done in about 10, 20 years. And so we walk and we go in, someone's trying to offer him licorice. I said, I hate licorice. He said, so do I. But he tasted it anyway, and he started, oh my God, this is awful. And we laugh and we have fun. And I'm telling you, I do not, people say, are you having fun? And I'm like, I don't really have fun. You need somebody else to have fun with. But if I'm alone, I'm observing, I'm finding out things, I meet people, but it wasn't fun necessarily. But that day I had fun. I met somebody that was almost exactly like me, but a little bit more. I said, how? No, really, because I'm wondering, how can someone be like me, but, to the extreme? You're extra. And that's why he kept telling me at least 20 times that day and the next day that I was brilliant. And I felt brilliant. I started looking at myself that way. And so he's sitting there, and you know how these British people are. And by the way, you look lovely today. You're like, thank you. Yeah, that was great. And then later on that evening, we met his brother. I met his brother, Alex, and his sister-in-law, the wife of Alex, Tia. We exchanged Facebook and all of that other stuff. And the next day, Alex and Giles took us out to Old Dubai, where we walked for hours and hours and sweated. But it was nice. If I'm sitting there eating dinner and I say something about laundry, he said, I was just thinking about laundry. If he says something to me about whatever it was at that time, I said, I was just thinking about that. And then he says to me, why are you in my head? Get out of my head. No, never, ever leave my head, please. I was like, all right, this guy's really dramatic. Oh, he would say, you are the best, touching his heart. I never met a man with such histrionics. Never met a man who was so expressive. I'm not like me, of course. But he was the most expressive person I'd ever met. Oh, most expressive man I'd ever met. The next day came, we went to the mall. That's how I was gonna feel in a minute, hold on. We go to the mall, and he says, I have a headache. And we go to a pharmacist, they give him, he says, what are these pills for? Oh, they're for general purposes, whatever that is. We walk around, I've got something in my hands, it's like, I got to throw this away, where's the trash can? A trash can, what is that? I mean, where am I put the garbage? Oh, a bin, I'm like, no one says that. Yes, they do. And he stops people. Hello, you. What? And I said, what do you call that receptacle? It's a bin. I was like, come on, let me try another one. What do you call that receptacle? It's a bin. I'm the only person using trash can. So American. It was time for me to leave. I shouldn't add this part, but I'm going to confess, I did get to the airport a day ahead of time for no reason, and then I turned back around. My kids know I do that kind of stuff, but at any rate, so it was time to leave. He said, don't leave, stay here with me. And I'm like, I'm not staying here, I can't. But you're perfect for me. We should stay here. I can stay for 3 more days. And he knew about Emirati culture because he had lived there for 20 years. And his brother stayed there, but he went back to England and went to college. So it was like, no, I'm not staying here. I can't. I got to go back. I'm going to go back to Tanzania, and then I'm going to go to South Africa. He said, speaking of that, do you know this song by Miriam Makeba, Malaika? And then he says, Malaika, nakupenda Malaika. Do you know that song? And I was like, no, I don't know that song. Do you know those words? You know Swahili? I says, yes, I know what nakupenda. He says, well, Malaika means angel. I was like, okay. I get on the plane, go back to Tanzania. I got a week there in a different place. And 2 days I had no internet, but the other days he called. He called every day. We talked a couple of days, a couple of times each day. And everything just came to me. People would just start offering me things. Really, I mean, get out of a train, or not a train, get out of a taxi. Somebody's like, hey, come have dinner with me. People were just giving me, I was like I was glowing or something. And then I went to South Africa. So I get to Johannesburg, I got perfect internet. He goes back to England. And we talk again, but the conversations increase. 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day, texting. And he says to me in the beginning, I'm going to come there and be with you. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because me, I'm so accustomed to being alone. Not like I want to be, but I don't trust anyone. Who am I going to trust with my feelings? Am I supposed to tell you I care about you? I don't want to care about you. I mean, I do, but I mean, it's just bad. I mean, I can't even explain it. So he says, no, I'm going to come there. I said, don't you have a hotel to deal with? Yes, but I'm tired. This is so boring. And I said, I'll come to Cape Town. I said, I'm not in Cape Town. I'm in Johannesburg. We'll come to Joburg. I said, well, let's give this a couple of days. And I'm thinking about this. And I'm thinking about it. And it just started bothering me. How am I going to walk around South Africa, post-apartheid South Africa, with an Mzungu, with the white man? This is like, here I'm this Pan-Africanist, there are these nationalists, repatriots I love in Ghana. I'm going to be just, hurting everybody's feelings. This is not right. And it just goes, but then here's someone saying, we can go wherever you want. He'll call out by a boat and come to you if I have to. And I'm like, come on, I could just see you sailing from England around the west coast of Africa. And we laugh about that. And it just bothered me so much I could not decide. But I'd never met anyone like me. I'd never met anyone who thought like me, who agreed with me before. So, there was one particular day, let's say a couple of days after, I'd finally given in and says, okay, why don't you come? And then the country shut down. Cyril Ramaphosa said no more flights in and out. And everybody was shutting down. And the COVID or Corona that we were joking about a couple of days ago, it was for real. And now you can't leave. And I couldn't leave either. Plus, they'd taken my passport because it didn't have any more pages. But we couldn't leave. We were both stuck in where we were. And so the time went by, and we talked more, and made plans. We're going to go here. Well, I'd like us to have a boat and live in Barbados. And I was at it. Which is all these great things, and I couldn't even believe that this was happening. I couldn't believe that was happening. And then I went to sleep one night, and I woke up, because I still was having this tug of war in my head. It's like, how am I going to do this? This isn't, I like this person, and he's like reaching out, I love you. I've never said that to anyone. And I didn't want to say that back, even if I thought it, and I was scared to think it, I was scared to think it. And if I say it out loud, then that makes it for real, and then that puts more of me out there on the plate to hurt. So I went to sleep one night, and I woke up crying because I was dreaming about someone who I grew up with. Her name is Trudy. Back in those days, you couldn't cross the street. And Trudy lived 3 or 4 doors down. And she was half Czechoslovakian and half black. But she looked more like a Czechoslovakian. And she was my best friend until I got to the 6th grade, where I realized that there was a difference, or was taught that there was a difference between black people and white people. And then I dumped Trudy, and I woke up crying thinking about that. I'm like, what is wrong with me? How can I get over this? I need to get over this. And a couple of days pass, and he's at home, and he's sad because he had to close the hotel down, and he couldn't get milk for his tea. And so here we are saying, well, we'll do this way. And I decided to give in. And so, but I couldn't give in, really. So I sent a Bitmo of me. It was like a little short thing with the head wrap, short, you know. And in the Bitmo, there were these hearts emanating, and it said GIF. And he wrote to me, he says, what is GIF? And I wanted to say, press it. And I wanted to say, I love you, but I couldn't say that. And then I never saw any response after that. And I would go back to the phone, and it was stuck on 2117. Hours later, still it's 2117. And I'm like, something's not right. And they just tried to ignore it because I said, well, you know, I'll have to tell you I love you if I, you know, answer the phone or do something. And I'm like, are you okay? And I'm texting. Nothing the next day. So I text Tia, his sister-in-law in Dubai. I said, I haven't heard from Giles. Alex says he does that all the time. He just disappears. I'm like, nah, this motherfucker didn't disappear. Somebody been talking to 4 or 5 times a day? He doesn't disappear. So I went to the shower, and my stomach just started turning like this really hard. You know, it's like one of those TV things where you have to sit on the floor, your stomach turns. And I go and take the shower, and I call, get out, and I call again. Still nothing. The phone hasn't changed. So I go to bed, and I wake up, and to the phone call. Well, it's actually a text. Marjorie, it's from Tia. I'm sorry to tell you, Giles passed away last night. The police found him at the bottom of the stairs. He had a cigarette and his lighter in his hand. I mean, of course, I just throw the phone to the side. So, I wish I had known. I wish I had known that love is more important than ideology sometimes. I wish I had known that it was possible for me. And that's the end of my story. Thank you.
So, our youngest person is coming up, Leila Brown. She's a longtime resident of Montclair, New Jersey, and she's with her posse here, her family. Her mama, her daddy, the firstborn like me, we the boss, right? Her brother, and the significant other of her brother. She has a love for family, faith, and fashion. Oh, by the way, the whole family sings in harmony. That's for real. And she has worked in many industries, but the thing that she brings to everything that she does is compassion and kindness and wants to be a helping hand. She loves to write and read and has a random love for NASCAR. Can you believe it? It is so unusual for African Americans to be at the racetrack or NASCAR and a female to boot. It's so unusual that she was featured in the New York Times over a passion for that. So let's welcome up our NASCAR maniac, Leila Brown.
Hi, everybody. Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow, there's a lot of people here. It's so cool. Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Leila Ty Brown. I I like to say my entire name. I'm very proud of it. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Just a little bit, Leila means born at night, beautiful night, darkest night, princess of the night. And then Ty actually means vast with great extreme. So my parents literally named me Night of Great Extremes. I don't know how to feel about that, but I'll take it. Sure. I'm very glad to have my family here with me tonight. Hi, family. Love you all so much. I like to say that we're like the Jacksons minus the crazy and the money, but we can harmonize. And I bring them up because they are a pivotal part of my life. And there's lots of ways in which they are a part of my life. I spend most of my time with them. Believe it or not, we survived COVID together. Yay, we still love each other. It's awesome. But, you know, so many experiences, especially as being the middle child with an older sister and a younger brother. And we are all 2 years apart. My parents obviously needed outdoor hobbies, cable TV, just, I don't know, books. Who has 3 children 2 years apart on purpose? I don't know why anybody would do that, but I'm thankful for it because it's provided me with great life experiences and the 2 best friends in the whole world. I love them so much. You know, it's the funny thing about siblings and best friends, them being your best friends, is that you do things for them and it kind of like develops you as a person. And being in the middle, I like to think that I had to have the most pizzazz. I know I had to have the most pizzazz. The middle child, for whatever reason, has to be that like chameleon who can move between the younger sibling and the older sibling and navigate those spaces. I remember distinctly when we were kids, being in the bank parking lot, bank drive-through, with my mom and my dad in the car, and I got my sister Amber, and on one end, me on the other end, and our little brother Marlon in the middle. And you know, at that time when you would go through the bank drive-through and people see kids in the car, they ask, oh, how many children are in the car with you? And of course my mother's like 3, and they send back some kind of candy, mostly lollipops, you know, those like really cheap ones that by the time you get to the end of it, you've got pieces of the lollipop paper in your mouth and you're like, why did I start out on this journey? And a little voice in your head's like, why didn't you? And you're like, you're right, this was a good idea. So this particular day on a hot Florida afternoon, they send back 3 lollipops. Now, who in their right mind sends back lollipops that are 2 of one color and 1 of a different color? Like, it has to be, I don't know if you know how kids operate, but it has to be all 3 different colors or all 3 of the same colors. On this particular day, they sent back 2 red lollipops, my favorite, and 1 green lollipop. So my mom hands out the lollipops in the back, and of course, my sister is the oldest. She is the family manager still to this day. So of course, she got first dibs and she gets her red lollipop. I get my hands on a red lollipop, and then I just look at this cute little face in the middle of the car. All of his curls, he really was cute, you all, I promise you. He's like probably the most adorable baby I've ever seen. And he's like holding his green lollipop, and he's just like, I don't want this. And so me being the bleeding heart, I always thought of him, he's only 2 years younger than me. I always thought of him as my own baby. And so of course, I'm not gonna let my own baby not have what he wants. So I reluctantly give up my red lollipop to my baby brother. And I'm like, it's okay, Mar, you can have the red lollipop, but you know, it really wasn't okay. I really wanted that red lollipop. But my need to give to someone else, my need to give to him who I just thought the world of at the time and still do, my need to give to him and see him happier was greater than my own need to be happy. And that's a good trait to have, I think. I've always been a kind person, someone who leads with kindness, who puts others before myself, but it can also be a really hindering trait to have. And as I started looking back on things, I never started taking that red lollipop for myself. People have always had buckets of great things to say about me. Leila, you're so exuberant, you're so charismatic, you're gonna go places. And for whatever reason, it took me a very long time to be able to recognize those things and start taking what I've called my red lollipops for myself. Yeah, it took a really long time. I've always put my effort into other people and given my red lollipops away. And in high school, you know, watching all my friends do things like go on dates and just be social and, you know, do all the things I wanted to do, but I didn't think that I could. I don't know why. I don't know why I viewed myself that way, but there were things that I didn't think that I could do because I didn't really believe that I was deserving of them. I believed I was deserving of green lollipops instead of the red ones I so desperately wanted. And at some point, my thinking became, you know, not that little girl who had this can-do attitude, I could do anything, would get up in a room and talk to anyone, had become this person who was like, definitely always thinking, why me, when I should have been thinking, why not me? And it only got more difficult when I went to college. I became this like shrunken in shell of myself who didn't think that she was, I guess we could just assign the name to it, depression. Depression is real, y'all. Go to therapy, go see someone, talk to someone about how you're viewing yourself. It took me a really long time to get there because I was viewing myself as someone who was not a part of the experience, but observing the experience. And I passed up a whole bags of red lollipops. It's kind of hard when you think back on all the things that you wanted to do and you know you're capable of, but there's just like this wall that won't let you get to the other side, that invisible glass between you and all the life experiences that you want to have. And I didn't love myself. I didn't appreciate myself. I couldn't see all of the great things that other people were seeing about me. And that's hard. That's really hard. And I think maybe somewhere I started telling myself things that weren't true, that, you know, I was too much, I was too extra, I was too vast. And it took finding really good core groups of friends to start appreciating me. I just needed that little bit of push of outward, a little bit push of outward affirmation to begin my inward affirmations, to begin changing that thinking from why you to why not you. I started dressing better. I started, you know, just taking bolder risks, just living my life on my terms and not for anybody but me. And now I'm that person. People are always like, where do you get your clothes? Well, I want to dress like you. You're such a fashionista. I don't know when that change happened. I don't know when this person emerged, but I'm so glad she did. I'm so glad she did because she doesn't give up her red lollipops, and she does it unapologetically. She has them. I would just like to encourage everyone to not lose who you are. Don't shrink into yourself. be this outward person. You're worthy of good things, and you're fine just how you are. And I actually brought.
What?
I actually brought red lollipops for everyone, so please. Please do feel free to take yours, hold on to them, don't let them go, and be unapologetic about it. Thank you.
Amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we're going to put the red lollipops
Yes.
right here on the counter, so make sure that you
Oh, thank you.
Our final presenter hails from New York City, presently. But her name is Valerie Preston. She was born in East Elmhurst, New York, and lives in Manhattan. A clinical social worker, she is also an aspiring, no you're not, she is an excellent double-deck pinochle player. She is often my partner, and we're both part of the Pinochle Addicts Club. And she also is an avid traveler. She's traveled all over the world. And as a first-time storyteller, she's honored to be part of the inaugural Do Tell. So let's bring up
Thank you.
Valerie.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see everybody here tonight. And actually, it's my honor because what I was going to say is that I'm Deborah's partner in Pinochle. And we do our best trying to beat Walee and Monty, who are over there. And we try our best. So anyhow, 8,400 seconds in every day. I mean, who knew? Did you know? I lie awake at night and I say to myself, well, what have you done all day with 8,400 seconds? And then sometimes I ruminate in the morning when I'm lying in bed. I do a lot of lying in bed. About what am I going to do with 8,400 seconds? So I'm going to just go back in time. I'm in the hallway. One foot is in my apartment on the 20th floor in Manhattan. The other foot's in the hallway. And I'm looking at my son at the elevator. And I'm looking at him almost in a 2D reflection because there's a huge mirror in the hallway. And so I see this stocky boy. He's kind of the color of teak, like the shelf underneath the mirror. And he's got a big smile on his face. He's always got a big smile on his face. And he's wearing a reparations t-shirt. He has an earring, and he has baggy pants. I mean, they're not falling off, but they are baggy. Anyhow, I don't say anything about that, but he says to me, Ma, you did some really fancy footwork this morning. You went around this car in Midtown, went around, did a U-turn for a space, and you slid right in. I said, well, Marcus, you live in Manhattan, you better do some fancy footwork. And I'm glad that you live in Connecticut because you're safe. He says, oh, Ma, you always say stuff like that. So anyway, I say to him, Marcus, I had to get this program for my 30th wedding anniversary. It's coming up April 18th. And, you know, I had to be there. I've got the lights from the terrace, and the lights go over the living room, through the family room to the foyer. And then I've got a trio coming, a jazz trio, Gil Scott, and they're going to play my husband's favorite songs, you know, Coltrane, et cetera. And I've got a South African caterer, and the flowers on the cake match my dress. Has to be perfect. So he says, well, Ma, how many people did you invite? I said, 50. And how many people are coming? I said, well, I don't know, because nobody RSVP'd. He said, well, why not? So I called my friend Sylvia up, and I said, Sylvia, how come you didn't RSVP? And she said, was that you? Well, anybody would recognize me from my 30 years ago. And at this point, it's 50. But anyway, he says, well, Ma, you look the same way that you looked then. And that is why I love my son. So I say, Marcus, be careful not to drive too fast. He says, Mom, I'm not even driving. Orlando's driving. I said, well, tell Orlando not to drive fast. All right, okay, yeah. So then I say, well, Marcus, you got to watch the police. Because if the police come, you got to put your hands on the dash. Don't go too fast to the glove compartment. And you don't know what's going to happen. Say, yes, officer. Ma, I'm 27 years old. I mean, I've been cuffed for driving. So, I mean, I didn't do anything, but I know the drill. I'm like, okay, son, well, be careful. White mothers say, have fun. Right. Black mothers say, be careful. So we're walking along, and the elevator's almost about to come. And I say to him, you know, son, I have one more thing to say to you. He says, what's that, Ma? I said, if you don't wear a suit jacket to this party, you're not getting a chicken wing. He says, okay, Ma, I got you. I got you. I'm wearing a suit. All right, son. I blow him the kiss. Bye, Ma. See ya. The next morning, there's a rapping at the door. And I'm like, what is that? We have 3 bells on our door. Why we have 3 bells is a long story. But we have 3 bells. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So my husband and I both go to the door. My daughter's asleep in the back. We open the door, and there are 2 crew cuts standing there. You know who crew cuts are. They're detectives, blue suit, black shoes, you know. And one of them says, is this the residence of Marcus Preston? And my husband says, I'm Marcus's father. And I notice the other crew cut is holding my son's wallet wrapped in plastic in his hand. And I'm like, officer, I know my son didn't do anything. I raised a respectable boy. He's very respectful, so I know nothing happened. Sorry to inform you, car accident, cross Bronx Expressway. Lights out, milk truck stalled. Divider. Both boys gone. Forever gone. My husband begins to slide down the yellow wall he was leaning on. And I asked the officer, was my son wearing his seatbelt? And after a moment's pause, the slightest hesitation, he says, yes, ma'am, he was. I like to think he was telling the truth because a mother's job is to protect her child as much as to love him. So if I had only known, I would have held on to him and held him tight and never let him go. If I had only known, I needed time, more time. I wouldn't have blown him a kiss. I would have hugged him, held him, and never let him go. If I had only known. So I know that this story brings up a lot of loss for people. It triggers people. They think about their own story. I think about Marjorie telling her story. And it's very difficult. So that was 23 years ago. 23 times 86,400 seconds. And how I got over, I'm thinking about the theme, Do Tell. So I'm thinking how I got over. I can't sing Walee, so I can't begin that song. But how I'm getting over is through the help of family and friends. My cousin Missy is here tonight because she lives in New Jersey. And my many friends have really helped me. So I want to share a couple of things that I think helps. The first thing I'm going to say is that after some years, I don't know how long it took, but I said grief You cannot walk in front of me. You can walk next to me, you can walk behind me, but you cannot walk in front of me. No more. I don't know when that happened. I don't know how long it took, but it was very helpful to me. It is helpful to me. And then I have 3 brothers. And my younger brother, Jeffrey, he's a lawyer, he lives in Canada, and I call him to complain. And I complain about, oh, the bank didn't get back to me, Verizon kept me on the phone, I didn't get the travel pass, they charged me all this money, blah, blah, blah. And he says to me, Val, it's nothing. I say, nothing? What do you mean it's nothing? You don't know how long I was on the phone and how much money. He says, Val, it's nothing. Is anybody bleeding? I said, no. He says, well, then it's nothing. So how many of you have worried about things recently that are really nothing? Raise your hand if you have. Oh, good. I'm so glad that I'm not alone. But so all of you can say with me one time, okay? You ready? It's nothing. Great. Okay. So the second thing is that it's been 23 years since my son died. It's been 23 months since my husband passed. Well, next week, Missy, it'll be 23 months. And my brother, who I guess he got tired of seeing me in so much pain and mourning, my older brother, Richard, who lives in Queens, said, at what point does remembrance take over from pain and suffering? People always say, go back to your memories, may they sustain you, and it's very nice to hear. But basically, people really want you to move forward. They say, oh, there are so many things in front for you, blah, 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 this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But I said to him, Richard, you really just have to listen. People can't move forward. There's no timetable for things. They just have to take as long as they take. But I thought it was a very profound question, because I've learned that having a jar, that in the jar there becomes more space for remembrance over time and less space for pain and suffering. So that's in progress. And then I have a third brother, Monty, who was sitting over there. I don't know where he is now. But I always complain to Monty about not pinochle players, but bid whist players. And I say, Monty, I went to this party, and this person hurt my feelings, and I'm not a great fan. Well, I'm a Scorpion. We're not always a fan of everybody. But anyway. So I said, Monty. And he says, but do they have a good heart? What's not a good heart? What does that have to do with it? He said, but Val, do they have a good heart? I said, but they hurt my feelings. You know what they said? He says, but do they have a good heart? And I said, well, yeah. I guess most people have a good heart. And so he helped me to think about being less judgmental and more accepting, which is the message our brother Earl has given us tonight. Yeah. And, I'm in progress with that. I wouldn't say I'm there yet. Okay. I don't believe in closure, even though I'm a social worker, Columbia School of Social Work 1,000 years ago, and they use the word closure all the time. I don't believe in acceptance, because for me, that might mean surrender. And I'll never surrender. Deborah does that in cars. She never surrenders. She'll take the bid. You just give her aces and she goes. Forget it. But so I realized I'll never surrender, and I really began to think about, does this person have a good heart? Can you see something in this person that is a strength, something that you can look to? And so I've gotten better with that. And finally, my husband, Ken, K-I-N. Everybody thought it was Ken, K-E-N. But his name was Atkins Ken Preston, like kinfolk. And so he has a favorite poet. Her name is Audre Lorde. You like poetry. Do you know Audre Lorde? So his favorite quote from Audre Lorde was this. But first, I forgot to tell you, here we go. That's a picture of Marcus. So now he's our Marcus, not just my Marcus, okay? All right. You see the big smile and the chubby cheeks, because he was named after Marcus Garvey with the chubby cheeks, right? That's Marcus. Okay. Bright smile, lovely eyes, etc. So my husband's quote from Audre Lorde was, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the vision of my service, and I add purpose, then it matters not. It matters less and less whether I'm afraid. So my friends, faith over fear. And then I thought of my grandmother, and she said, and you probably heard this, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Thank you.
So, I got one more thing to do. And I'm allowed a piece of paper for this.
No, you're not.
Because I want to say that completes our presenters for Do Tell. I'm going to ask all of them to come up. I'm going to call up Earl Brown. Stacey Abenstein. Moses Oliva. Garnet Hall. Walee Jackson. Marjorie Lloyd. Leila Brown. And Valerie. All right. And I'll,
Thank you so much for your beautiful
and let me get in the middle. No, you're right there. So,
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you.
here is the inaugural group and the first presenters of Do Tell. Let me say that I'm grateful to them participating in this initiative and vision that I have. And what's next? I'm gonna take the summer and tweak it, figure out what things really worked, what things that we can change, and we'll come back again in September. The goal is to do it every other month, but I'm being pushed to do it monthly. I don't know about that, but every other month at least, we will do a Do Tell presentation, and it will have a different theme. Okay. So what the theme could be: troubled life, or lost love, or mom, all about mom. Each event will have a different theme with different presenters. And again, thank you to them all.
Good job.
And finally, which I didn't do, I'm Deborah Davis Ford, and I'm happy to be your host for the event. And Elitist Coffee, is this a beautiful venue? Yeah. And again, thank you for our videographer and photographer, my daughter, my sidekick, and again, everyone who had, but someone not to forget, Allison Bryant.
Hi, Allison.
Yeah. And Alex with helping with the videographer and the audio and everything like that. I want to say thank you. So everyone, enjoy. The coffee bar is still open, and in about 5 minutes, the presenters, I want you to meet me in the far room in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And take a lollipop.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.